You thought in Earth Online, Uncle Crocodile has never been nerfed. You're wrong. The crocodiles you see now are pocket-sized. What if I told you there once was a crocodile on Earth ... with a bite force stronger than a T-Rex? It might have even preyed on megalodons. Would you believe it? This isn't made up. This was a real creature that lived about 8 million years ago on the Amazonian land. Its name was Purosaurus. Today's Amazon is home to countless beasts. The black caiman, as today's apex predator, can reach 5 meters and weigh 750 kilograms. That's already terrifying enough. But the black caiman, compared to the ruler of this land 8 million years ago, is like a house cat standing before a tiger. Back then, the Amazon wasn't a river, but a massive swamp, known as the Pebas Mega Wetland System. This wetland spanned across modern-day Brazil, Peru, Colombia, and Venezuela. This wetland was the kingdom of Purosaurus. In 1892, paleontologists along the Purus River in Brazil, a massive skull fossil. When they placed this fossil on the table, the entire room fell silent because this skull was a full 1.5 meters long. What does that mean? An adult brown bear is only about 1.5 meters and this was just its head. Based on this skull, scientists began trying to reconstruct the true size of Purosaurus. Unfortunately, to this day, the fossils scientists have unearthed are still almost entirely skulls. A complete skeleton has never been found. But relying on modern precise proportional calculations, they reached a suffocating conclusion. Purosaurus could reach 12.5 meters, 12.5 meters, is equal to 4 cars lined up bumper to bumper. 8.4 tons is heavier than 2 African elephants combined. It was a mobile biological armored vehicle. This is where Purosaurus truly shocked all paleontologists. A paper dedicated to Purosaurus was published. Through data modeling of calculated its living crocodile species, reached an astonishing 69,000 converted to a familiar unit. That's about 7 tons of force. Meanwhile, the bite force of a T-Rex estimate is between 57,000 and 63,000. A single bite from was far more vicious than the most powerful in Earth's history. If the T-Rex's jaw was a battle axe, was a hydraulic crusher. What's even more terrifying is this hydraulic crusher didn't just have immense power. It was designed for sustained combat. Purosaurus's skull wasn't just extremely thick and solid. Structurally, it could withstand repeated violent biting. It wouldn't just take one bite. It could bite down again and again until its prey completely collapsed. Its teeth were equally sophisticated. The 3 known species of Purosaurus, although having slight differences in tooth shape, share the common trait of each curving slightly about inwards, 50 millimeters with serrated ridges on the edges. Perfectly combined piercing and tearing function, born exclusively further to subdue massive prey. Purosaurus most likely by using the death roll after biting into its prey. It would violently spin its massive tearing the victim directly just imagine the scene. An 8-ton behemoth that spinning at high speed in the water. That was nature's most meat grinder performance. So, what exactly did it hunt? Based on fossil records from the same period, pieced together Purosaurus's potential menu. There were massive giant turtles, with shells exceeding 3 meters in diameter, ancient rodents the size of buffaloes, 1-ton no-tungulate mammals, and various giant tree sloths, ground sloths, and even large birds. Scientists even suspected to be bitten by Purosaurus of a giant turtle shell. It bore deep bite marks that remains, to date, the only piece of direct physical evidence proving Purosaurus's hunting behavior. To sustain this massive body, needed to consume about 40 kilograms of meat every day of a modern American alligator. Some might wonder about this monster. Did it have any natural predators in the water? The answer is practically none. In the mega wetlands of that era, there lived other species of crocodiles and caimans. They were all far smaller than mammalian land predators. Were extremely rare in South America. They posed absolutely no threat. The only creature that might have been was the megalodon in the ocean. Some scientists boldly speculate that Purosaurus might occasionally appear in estuaries, sharing territory with megalodons there. It might even be the first to feast ... when a megalodon washed ashore dead. When you are an 8-ton hydraulic even crusher, a dead megalodon counts as a free, however, lavish having meal. Dominated this wetland for millions of years, eventually disappeared. Purosaurus And what destroyed it wasn't a stronger predator. The Andes kept rising during the late Miocene. The entire water system layout of northern South America was fundamentally altered. The massive wetland that nurtured began to shrink, eventually disappearing. To evolve into the familiar Amazon River basin we know today. The collapse of the ecosystem for a highly specialized apex predator like Prehistoric was a fatal blow. The larger the size, the deeper the reliance on the environment, and the narrower the room to adapt to change. It spent millions of years ascending the throne, only to be left powerless against the geological flood of rising mountains. Nature's elimination of never any listens to reason. Prehistoric didn't lose to a stronger opponent. It lost to environmental shifts beyond its control in history. Only that 1.5-meter-long skull and the silent fossils it crushed. It once clamped down on the entire world, but ultimately was gently forgotten 370 to million years ago. The strongest ocean overlord on Earth died. Not killed by something stronger. It was killed by a tree. Sounds absurd, right? But this is the most ironically true evolutionary within the Devonian mass extinction. It ruled the seas for tens of millions of years. It was the Devonian ocean's undisputed apex predator. Rewrote the evolutionary path of Earth's vertebrates. You and I might not exist today. And your sudden fear of the psychological issue? It's your ancestors and your genes, using memories from 370 to warn you not to go into that humans water. Being able to stand on land were forced up by a group of giant prehistoric fish. Our ancestors were meant to live only in the water. Ocean overlords forced them to either go ashore to fight for a sliver of survival, or stay in the water. Our ancestors chose to go ashore, thus slowly evolving limbs and evolving into the other words. Without that relentless pursuit, there would be no humanity today. And the thing etched into your ancestors' bones was called Dunkleosteus in 1867 by the shores of Lake Erie in Ohio. Farmer J. Terrell, USA, dug out from a shale cliff. A very strange stone. The bone plates had sharp and weird shapes. He had no idea what it was, and casually handed it to the Ohio Geological Survey. This batch of fossils was initially classified and languished in academia until 1956. French paleontologist Jean-Pierre dug out these dust-covered fossils again, remodeled them, and realized ... This thing wasn't an ordinary fish fossil. It was an unseen apex predator. So he named this new genus Dunkleosteus. Was a tribute to paleontologist David Dunkel. It was his decades of persistent that finally brought this of these fossils our eyes. It is worth noting that because Dunkleosteus was all soft tissue, had no hard bones, thus all the unearthed fossils are almost entirely this also just the head and front half's bony armor. All our speculations on Dunkleosteus's size are essentially using half a fish's data to reconstruct a complete monster. So before 2023, paleontology universally agreed comparable to a large truck was 8 meters long. PhD student Russell Engelman used a completely new measuring to overthrow this number. The real answer is 3.4 meters, shorter than a family sedan. You thought this was good news. Wrong. This is where the nightmare truly begins. Study found that a Dunkleosteus less than 4 meters long weighed an astounding 950 to 1,200 kilograms. A 4.6 meter great white shark is about this weight. Dunkleosteus crammed the entire weight of a great into a body the size of a sedan. This wasn't a fish. This was a swimming cannonball. What's even more outrageous with a 4-meter-long body width was equivalent to an 8-meter-long shark's mouth. A full double the size of shark's no its own size. You thought this was a weakness. Its upper and lower jaws directly evolved into 2 bone plates. The sharpness of the edges rivaled every industrial scissors. The 2 bone plates ground against each other the more they bit. Its mouth was a pair of self-sharpening scissors. A research team from the University of Chicago through computer that the bite force of these bone plates reached equivalent to placing the weight of a small car down on a single point on your body. But the bite force wasn't even the most terrifying part. A new study found that lower jaw utilized a 4-bar linkage bite mechanism. This system allowed it to complete opening in just 20 to 60 milliseconds. A human takes 150 in the time it takes you to blink once. It has already bitten you 2 or 3 times. Then there is one killer move you'd never expect. When Dunkleosteus opened its mouth at the vacuum zone formed, the surrounding water and oral cavity would be sucked in like by an industrial vacuum into its mouth. You didn't need to be chased down by it. As long as you were within 5 meters in front of its mouth, game over. So how did it defend itself? Its head and front body were covered with bony armor several centimeters thick. This material is called dermal bone. Its hardness approached enough to resist teeth. Attacks from all marine life at that time. But its back half was soft muscle, front heavy, gave it surprisingly good maneuverability in the water. Simulations show its burst sprint was incredibly one-hit kill. Body like a tuna, power like a tank, mouth like hydraulic shears. This was the ultimate killing machine of the Devonian. What I want to tell you most is how this overlord finally died. Such an invincible killer. Completely vanished 359 million years ago. Not a single species survived past that boundary. How did it die? What killed it was the trees on land. Might be the most absurd in the late Devonian evolutionary history. Land plants suddenly reproduced explosively. Vast forests covered the land. Trees desperately photosynthesized, consuming massive amounts of carbon dioxide in the air, washing massive amounts of minerals into the ocean. This triggered algae also known as red tide. The algae died and decayed, depleting all the oxygen in the seawater. The ocean began to suffocate. Dunkleosteus weighed highly developed muscles. Its metabolism was extremely vigorous, and its demand for oxygen was incredibly high. Seawater was like a sealed room, getting smaller and smaller at the same time. Massive amounts of CO2 were absorbed by temperatures plummeted. The seawater turned cold. Dunkleosteus was a water temperatures dropped. Its metabolism dropped along with it. Its mobility significantly declined. A slowed down apex What happens to it? It will starve to death, and that mass extinction directly wiped out about 75% of marine life. The large prey Dunkleosteus relied on bore the brunt of this crisis, going nearly extinct. Hypoxia, temperature drop, and starvation, a triple blow arriving simultaneously. Just like that, the killer that once plunged sank one to the bottom of the sea, never to surface again? But you know what's even more terrifying? Neuroscience research found that there exists a primal fear circuit in the human brain, stress reactions generating a powerful stress response. So some people are born with thalassophobia. It's just this survival alarm left by ancestors in the era when Dunkleosteus reigned. Those early tetrapods driven into the horror in the water evolved stronger limbs to prop up their bodies, evolved primitive lungs to breathe in, and step by step crawled onto humans land, being able to stand on land. In a way, we're chased up by Dunkleosteus and inexplicably feel a chill. That's not a psychological That's in your genes. Your ancestors, who barely escaped 300 million using the memories bought with their lives to warn you. There's something in the water. Dunkleosteus never lost what it ultimately opponent in its life was its own overly perfect shell. The armor protected it for 10 million years. But in the end, when the ocean changed, food became scarce. That nearly 1-ton was no longer a weapon, but the weight that crushed it to death. It had no way to become lighter. Retreat. No way to become something else. Because it had forged itself to thoroughly. This matter is actually not far from those things that once protected habit, a certain obsession. A shell you spent years building up. Will it one day start to quietly choke you? Armor grows on everyone, just in different shapes. Some carry past wounds. Some carry others' expectations. Some carry an identity that has long stopped fitting them, and they are still desperately holding on. Uses its extinction to tell us one thing. True strength isn't about getting heavier when it's time to let some things go.